How you doing?
How you doing?
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to night 2 of the BetUS house. Last night, guys, we talked about quite a lot when it came to awards favorites, whether it was MVP, Cy Young. We were going all over the place with all these different players. Tonight, we're going to focus on teams for this coming year, right? Teams like the Dodgers, who had an amazing offseason, cramming in a whole bunch of talent this offseason. Teams like the Braves, who every year they're a powerhouse. We got the Yankees making big moves. We're going to go through a lot of these teams tonight, whether or not we think they're going to go over or under on win totals, according to BetUS, who is sponsoring this entire show, this entire trip that we're on for spring training. Got to say, guys, can't thank these guys enough for what they've done for us, for putting this on tonight.
Absolutely.
And last night, this whole trip. We just got back from a spring training game not too long ago, Mets and the Marlins. You got to see the return of Edwin Diaz.
Yes.
Quick thoughts on that. How you feeling? I know you're just jazzed up.
Oh, absolutely jazzed up. To everyone that's watching here, WardyNYM, happy to have you guys here. Everyone at Robbie Hyde and, of course, Jim Ballcap Sports. Make sure you smash that like and subscribe button if you're watching live on our replay. Greatly appreciated. Yeah, we got to witness Sugar Edwin Diaz in person today. Cue the trumpets. Narco was going bananas. I've never seen fans in a spring training game get as hyped up as they did for Edwin Diaz. And then he casually struck out the side. Inevitably, I was absolutely, of course, screaming my lungs out. I don't care that it's March. Us Mets fans are beyond excited. Baseball fans should be excited to have one of the best closers, if not the best, back in the game of baseball. We're going to talk more about the Mets here on their over-under for their regular season wins, too, out of the NL East shortly, not just yet. And we'll get into their odds on making playoffs and then some, along with a lot of other big market teams. And, of course, the teams that, again, are the ones that are going to be pushing for playoffs this year. That will be a heavy emphasis in today's show. And, of course, guys, if you haven't already, make sure to click the link or scan the QR code available for you at any point. That way you sign up with our amazing sponsor, BetUS, to get all your sports betting needs, including all the future-type bets that we're going to be going over tonight. So, again, thank you guys for that. Now, Jim, how you doing? This was hectic. We were supposed to start this live almost north of an hour ago. Of course, this is what happens. We get 3 schmucks that don't know how to do the production side of things, trying to get it together, and here we are. So we're about to get this thing underway. How you feel?
I'm good. I want to say to our viewers, thank you for your patience, because yes, this was supposed to start 44 minutes ago, and we've been, no joke, running around for at least a half an hour trying to figure out a camera issue. So thank you all for your patience, and thank you again to BetUS, because this has been a lot of fun. Make sure 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Link is down below. Make sure to check them out. We've been talking about them a lot on all of our channels, and we're going to dive into these AL, NL, over-unders, and some of them are so good for the purpose of getting in some action. Some of these are really, really good. So we're going to get into that. Let's get to the Mets. We're going right to the favorites on the table here. So Red Sox
favorites.
Mets 81.5 is the Mets number. Tyler, where are you going? Over or under 81.5?
Oh my god. I wish that we had some more open space here so I could just keep pounding this table to yell hammer. Because seriously, 81.5 with this Mets team, even with Kodai Senga being out for potentially the first month plus, this is absolutely something that I think you'd be silly not to do. Not even if you're just an optimistic Mets fan like me to an extent, but just the reality that if you've been following along with everything the Mets did this offseason, you know that they established a floor of depth that they haven't had in recent years. I think that in itself alone is what's going to help propel them. Because, look, this is the same Mets team that had everything imaginable go wrong last year with early injuries before the season even began, to offense being underwhelming throughout the entire course, still winning 77 games after being clear sellers at the trade deadline. And now you're telling me that they can't even get to 81.5? Well, yes, they don't have JV, they don't have Max, but you can argue really, how much of a difference will that make? Because at the end of the day, the Mets need to make sure that they just have as much MLB quality pitching talent as possible. And in comparison to last season, between the ailments and when they need to do the call-ups, they had guys that weren't ready to the same degree that they will be this year. So, of course, I would love a Jordan Montgomery. Of course, I wouldn't be opposed to still adding to this rotation whatsoever. But how things currently stand, even with them having potential uncertainty at DH, where you don't know what type of power consistently you're going to get from Mark Vientos, and at the hot corner, Brett Beatty, he has a lot to prove. even with all those uncertainties, I think that this is just a really smart bet to place. And again, regardless on if you're a betting man or not, I think if you just ask the average Joe, Mets 81.5. When I've been doing that over the past couple days at Culver Park, asking you guys, and the short content that's coming out on all BetUS socials, make sure to check it out if you haven't already. The consensus for 9 out of 10 people has been, I'm taking the over, including people who aren't even Mets fans I spoke to. So I think that speaks loudly to how a lot of people feel heading into the season. There's not a great level of optimism, but definitely one where we know that this team is going to be pushing for playoffs. And for that reason alone, it's hard to envision them not at least getting 81.5.
I'll jump in here. Until something happens from a roster perspective, I'm going to take the under on the Mets.
Ooh, you schmuck.
I want this team to add JD Martinez. I want this team to add Jordan Montgomery.
I agree there.
I think
100%.
that is the difference between this team either making the playoffs and not making the playoffs.
Okay.
And I also think about this back half of the season. If they're out of it, you start maybe trading a piece or two, which again hurts your possible win total. So the Mets have some hurdles to clear. Kodai Senga, we think it's only going to be a month, and we hope it's only going to be a month. If it's more than that, they're in even worse shape. So I'm not saying the Mets are going to win like 71 games, then the season will be a wash. But if I had to put, Jim, you got to put $100 down. I'm going under because I don't see David Stearns already lives in a world where he thinks the Mets were a playoff team, and I feel like they were borderline. They weren't there yet. They really, it was one. JD Martinez or Jordan Montgomery, even before the Kodai Senga injury, I really would have liked to see the Mets add another pitcher. They didn't. Stearns feels good about it. There's a lot of question marks. I'm going to take the under. I think they're more like a 78-77 win team, especially if they start trading pieces at the deadline because they understand this is not – they're not in full –
you do it.
They are not in –
can't take it anymore.
They are not in an aggressive let's go for it mode. So they will probably, unless they're surprising themselves, lean towards selling at the deadline. So I'll take the under.
So final thing I'll say on this, and Robbie, if you'd like to add anything before we get on to the next team, by all means. When looking at their approach throughout the course of the year, this is another year where us Mets fans are filled with uncertainty where, okay, basically trade deadline is going to dictate the season. When we get there for buying or selling, that's going to be the big one. And I think that's exactly going to be the case. And where I'm going to have my biggest frustration where, again, you're not signing a Monty or a JDM. While I understand there are a lot of factors that come into play, it's not as easy as, I can just sign him right now. No, it takes 2 to tango 1, and 2, again, this 110% tax is a bigger deal than I think some fans seem to realize, especially to block positions where you want to see what you have to an extent with Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, and what many believe are make or break seasons. But having said all that, when you look at how they're likely going to approach the deadline, I think they're going to buy. And I think they're going to buy a starter and probably a bat. Something that, again, you could argue that they should
get now.
Exactly. This has been, since I started covering the Mets, this has been a reoccurring thing every trade deadline long, especially JDM. The Mets have been going after him for the past 2+ years now. Those rumors from the 2022 season. So, I think they're going to add. I think they will be in a position to do so because, look, we talked about it a lot. Look at the Diamondbacks last year, right? Look at punting teams, the Phillies in 2 years ago. All you need is just be a couple games above 500, and you have pretty solid chances to crack that wild card spot. You do that, and from there, anything can happen. Mets with expectations recently, Mets without expectations, good. So, based on that simple logic and my fandom, that's what I'm taking.
I'm going to really hop on that, what you just said on the end there. That what that makes me think of?
What?
The Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh,
right? David Stearns is kind of giving that feel for this. Because when I look at this Mets team, I see talent. You see guys on this team. You see guys that can do things with the bats. Different things like Nimmo getting on base. You got the power with Alonso in the middle, Lindor, that all-around player. Interested to see Starling Marte for a bounce-back season possibly. Harrison Bader, I think, adds some energy to this team. And
got on base today. We like to see that, Shuddy here.
Good defense out in center field. Add some speed there as well. Jeff McNeil, let's see if he can do a little bit more. I think this lineup is pretty solid all the way around. And the rotation, sure. there's going to be some question marks here, but I think there is upside. We've seen what Luis Severino can do, right? When he's with the Yankees, when he's healthy, of course. Quintana is great when he's healthy. Hauser, Mania, they can give you some decent innings in the middle of the rotation, and then eventually Senga comes back healthy. We know what he can do. But I think the big key, I think a lot of people forget with the Mets last year, is they had one of the worst bullpens in baseball last year, and it just so happens they didn't have the best closer of the game in Edwin Diaz, and we just saw him today. I was saying this when we were walking to our car today. It felt like, I actually asked, I'm like, was that an immaculate inning going when we were walking out to the car? And it was close. Like, it was close. Like that, it was the quickest, like it was so energetic. Everyone was going nuts when he was coming out, and it felt like a minute later it was done. Right. So that is the difference, I think, for the Mets, is if they can just get their guys to start every fifth day, get them at least something, 5 innings, even if it's like 5 innings, 3-4 earned runs, and then get it to that back end of the bullpen. I think they're okay. I think they have a pretty decent chance at making some noise for a wild card spot, kind of like that Brewers team for all those years with David Stearns, where everyone wants to pick against them, but they're there, right? Yeah. So I think they can be competitive. Maybe add something at the deadline if they're into.
Okay. Final thing, quick answer: will the Mets make playoffs this year? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
I think they're going to be in it. Like, I think they're going to be there. I think they'll be hanging around until, like, you'll be going into September and you're like, oh, wow, look at the Mets, like 2.5, 3.5 back. They got a shot at this thing, and probably come up short. But I think Mets fans, would you feel okay with that? If you it never feels good.
Yeah, I mean, it would all depend on the circumstances, but like if there was like clear valid reasons and like we understood it, where we weren't like pissed at the team for say doing a lack of moves at the deadline, something along those lines, like you could clearly tell that 2025 off season, that's like the big thing. Then I can understand it more. I'm obviously naturally going to say the Mets will make playoffs this year, because not only with hammering the over on wins, but them buying at the deadline, I do again think that they, one, have the assets, and two, will have enough interest level to make the proper moves to put them in a position. Again, just got to crack that wild card. I'm not asking them to win 90 games. I'm just asking them to do what it takes to get in there, and then from there, it's a whole new ball game, whole new season.
Yeah.
If they go over, I think they will make the playoffs.
Okay,
because
there you go. So if they have 82 wins or more, you think they will make?
Well,
playoffs?
No, I think if they are tracking, I think we'll know what they are, and if they're tracking to be a team that's going to be above 500, I think they will be aggressive at the deadline. They'll buy, and that will be enough to push them over. That's because 84 got 2 teams in last year. One of them made it to the World Series. So 84 got you in. If you're going to go over, I think if the Mets do go over, I think they make the playoffs if they're able to go over. Yes, that's what you need. That's what you need to do, to get a little whiff of something, do an investigation, and next thing you know, Marvel's out.
Well, guys, we're starting to approach that 90-minute mark. And any last words?
I think it is a blast doing this with you guys, doing this together, all three of us, and I'm happy that we get to do it one more time. And that is going to be tomorrow night, and we are going to be talking about we're going to stay on the teams, but we're going to dive into postseason, division winners, World Series, all that fun stuff. That'll be tomorrow night. It'll be our last stream together, so make sure you are back here for that one, and we will hopefully, fingers crossed, the baseball gods will shine down on us, and we will not have more technical problems, and this thing will run nice and smooth, and we'll actually start on time.
The stream will be earlier tomorrow too than
yes, it will be
by multiple hours. So when we're saying just sometime, probably tomorrow midday, evening, be on the lookout. Yes. We're going to get the stream all set up.
Yep.
And again, thank you guys all so much for watching live on a replay. That's Jim at Ballcap Sports. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That is Robbie Hyde. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here at WardyNYM. For my Mets fans and baseball fans as a whole, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Before we go, very important. Thank you to BetUS, the BetUS house. This has been a ton of fun. This has been a blast. Make sure to check out the links in the description below. 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Not 1, not 2, 3 deposits. 125% bonus up to $2,500, minimum $100 deposit. Baseball futures, like we're talking about right here. Football futures, basketball, hockey, the whole thing. I do have a super chat that just came in last second. KD, thank you. I bet on Junior Caminero for AL Rookie of the Year. He's got sent down today. Is this bet now?
Is that Mike? I thought is that
Maybe
Mike from Start
that's
Betting
it.
Sports? He literally
It's not his
started
burner
that-
account, folks.
I would not say that is toast, but if he's still not up after like a month, he may not be able to
Right.
catch up with the rest of the group.
Agreed.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Everyone, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you,
Always
guys.
greatly appreciated. Again, make sure to check that description down below. Take advantage of that great deal. Everyone, thanks again. We'll talk to you next time.
Peace out, everybody.